Welcome to Learn More. In the previous lesson, we learned about the characteristics of psychology, and we learned that psychology predicts, psychology describes, psychology modifies human behavior. Then we also learned that psychology is a discipline, and we also learned that psychology studies human and animal behavior, and psychology is a science. Then we looked at the reasons why psychology is a science. What are the reasons why psychology is a science? So those are what we learned in the last lesson. So if you've not got the last lesson, you can go to our channels on Facebook, on YouTube, and look for these lessons, characteristics of psychology. And in the former one, we looked at the introduction to psychology, where we looked at the origin of psychology. We looked at the root word where psychology is derived from two Greek words. We have psyche and logos. So those are in our previous lessons, lesson 1 and lesson 2. So this is lesson 3. And in this lesson 3, we are looking at the branches of psychology. The branches of psychology. So having understood the characteristics of psychology, we are looking at the branches of psychology. At the end of this lesson, the viewers should be able to state the branches of psychology. So you should be able to state the branches of psychology. You should be able to explain 5 branches of psychology, at least 5 branches of psychology. Okay, so let's look at branches of psychology. The branches of psychology are various areas or aspects of life in which psychology directs its study. Various areas or aspects of life in which psychology directs its study. Psychology has so many branches. Like I told you in the previous class that we have so many branches of psychology, and in the previous class I can still remember I gave you at least 3 to 4 branches of psychology, and I knew I talked about educational psychology. So I've given you a preview of what we are supposed to learn now and what we are learning now. So we looked at some of these branches of psychology in our previous class, but we are looking at them in details now. So one of the branches of psychology is developmental psychology. Now, developmental psychology studies the way at which human tends to change and develop over time. Don't forget, it is a branch of psychology that studies the way at which human tends to change and develop over time. Developmental psychology studies how children grow and develop in time of conception to the time of birth, to the time of childhood, to the time of adolescence, to the time of adulthood and old age. So developmental psychology follows the process by which child develop from conception to the time of the old age. So we are looking at the whole life process of a child, the whole life process of humans. That's what we are looking at in developmental psychology. Developmental psychology studies the effect of heredity and social and environmental factors on humans. The effect of heredity, social and environmental factors on human. So here it's where we looked at how heredity now coming from the gene of your father, the gene of your mother, coming together to play a role in your life, bringing these two genes together in your own life, forming out a new life now in you. These genes are very, very responsible to the kind of person you are. Yes. So most children they develop some genes through the characteristics of their father and their mother coming together to play a role in their life. So developmental psychology study the effects of heredity. Heredity now here it's let's say for example there are some negative gene of a father and the son already has that negative gene transferred from the father. So we could also tell that negative attitude that the father possesses could be able to influence the child. So we could also see that same attitude in that child. or there are some medical conditions that the father faces and is in the gene, we could also say that that condition could be applicable to that child. So this is where developmental psychology comes in: the effect of heredity on a child, the effect of social and environmental forces on humans. So if I'm trying to explain social and environmental forces, I'm saying that for example, if we have two kids that they are of the same age, and one grew up in a rural area and the other one grew up in an urban area, so we could directly tell you that the one that grew up in the city, in the urban area, would have a very large aspect of his development. Like he tends to develop more quickly, understand concept more easily, and because he has seen so many things, he is exposed to so many amenities of life. So these children, one of them will have a very high rate of development and the other one may have a very low rate of development. You can see they would have different rate of understanding, they would have different rate of reasoning, and they could also have different rate of education. So we could now say that these two individuals, their development is not stable. So that is the effect of social and environmental factors on the development of that child. So developmental psychology studies emotional and attitudinal changes in human as humans grow and develop, and help to offer solutions to challenges. So it's not just studying the social and environmental changes on human, but it also studies the attitudinal changes in human as humans grow and develop. So that is developmental psychology. Don't forget I said it also studies it studies the way at which humans grow and develop from the time of conception to the time of the old age. So that is one branch of psychology. We have looked at developmental psychology. So the next branch of psychology, or another branch of psychology, is counseling psychology. Counseling psychology is an aspect of psychology that studies personal, social, educational, and vocational problems. It studies personal, it studies social, it studies educational, and it also studies vocational problem. So in counseling psychologies, the experts are trained to listen to people and give them advice about their problems. So we have a counseling psychologist. You would always find a counseling psychologist in so many fields of life. In counseling psychology, people facing social, educational, emotional challenges are given solutions by experts. So we can find most of these counseling psychologists in higher institutions, in educational sector. We can find them in social gatherings. We can find them in so many organizations. They tend to give solutions to human. So that is counseling psychology. They try to counsel humans. Then we have clinical psychology. Clinical psychology is another branch of psychology. Now, clinical psychology is a branch of psychology that applies the psychological theory in solving clinical problems. So here, psychological theory are being applied to clinical problems to provide solution to them. This involves trained experts who use their competency to administer treatment on people with emotional problems such as maladjustment, mid-mental instability, etc. So clinical psychology often work in hospitals, in clinics, in mental homes, in order to provide solution to individuals in the clinic. So that's clinical psychology. They provide solution to humans in the clinic, in the hospitals, wherever we have some cases. So we have looked at three branches of psychology: developmental psychology, we have looked at counseling psychology, we have also looked at clinical psychology. So we are going to social psychology. Social psychology is an aspect of psychology which engage in training people to understand their differences. It trains people to understand their differences among individuals, among humans, among groups, among people of the same culture, people of different culture, and so on. Social psychology studies the difference among people in the same tribe, people of different tribe, and relationship between them, relationship between intertribal connection and conflict resolution. So that is for social psychology. They are studying majorly people of tribe, how people of the same tribe relate to each other, how people of different tribe relate, and how they could relate better, and what could be done in order for them to understand themselves better. That is social psychology. Then we have psychometrics. Psychometrics is an aspect of psychology that studies and measures human attributes and behavior. It studies and measures human attributes and behavior. Attributes such as love, such as intelligence, such as achievement, such as interest, such as fear, they are measured with different measurement instruments like interviews, like questionnaires, like tests, etc. So like I said, psychometry is an aspect of psychology that studies and measures human attributes and behavior. So in psychometric, we are measuring human attributes like love, we are measuring intelligence, we are measuring achievements, we are measuring interest, we are measuring fear, and these are attributes of humans. So we are measuring them by the use of some measurement instruments like questionnaires, like tests, etc. Then we have educational psychology. Educational psychology is a branch of psychology that applies the knowledge of psychology in solving educational problems. This aspect of psychology is used to solve problems related to teaching and learning. Educational psychology directs the general principle of psychology in solving educational problems. Now, educational psychology is an aspect of psychology that tries to solve educational problem by using the knowledge of psychology. So it drives psychology theory in solving educational problem. Educational psychology explores the following. It explores the psychology of children and their patterns to response to learning. It explores the impact of heredity and environmental forces in teaching, learning, and the development of the child. Educational psychology is most effective method of imparting education to children. It explores the most effective method of imparting education to a child. Educational psychology explores the construction of good teaching techniques. What are the good teaching techniques that could be used to teach child of different level, age, and group? Then it also explores measurement and evaluation facilities of teaching a subject matter. How to measure, how to evaluate the child, how to evaluate the learners when you are teaching a subject matter. Okay, educational psychology also explores psychological importance to a pre-service teacher. It explores the psychological importance to a pre-service teacher. Other branches of psychology includes, we have the cognitive psychology, we also have the comparative psychology, we have the environmental psychology, we have psychological, physiological psychology, applied psychology, and industrial psychology. So these other branches of psychology, there are some other branches of psychology which are not explained in this lesson. We would see how we'd go about it, but it's not explained here. But these are some other branches of psychology. In summary, we have learned about the branches of psychology. We looked at the developmental psychology, we looked at counseling psychology, we learned about the clinical psychology, we learned about social psychology, we learned about psychometrics and educational psychology. So in the next lesson, we'll learn about the other branches of psychology. We would look at cognitive psychology, comparative psychology, environmental psychology, physiological psychology. Then we also look at applied psychology and industrial psychology. So these other branches of psychology, which we were not able to cover up in this video, in this lesson, we'll try to cover them up in our next lesson. So I would appeal to you all that you stay tuned for the next lesson. See you in the next lesson.